something I don't think that I've talked very much about is the publishing world. And, newspapers. Is there a place for newspapers? Is there a place for periodicals? Is there a place for magazines out there? And yet we see companies or people like Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, and he still got it, still being printed. So maybe there is something there. But what is it? What's the deal with the established companies in that industry that are having a difficult time surviving? Hey, this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. Welcome once again to another Uncopyable Business presentation program episode. I don't know, is it? I think it's 95, whatever it is. It's scrolling across the front here, or this way, whichever way. Okay, here's what kicked this off. All right, I travel a lot, as you well know, and one of my favorite magazines when I'm traveling to read is Popular Science magazine. So a couple weeks ago, I was traveling and I picked this up at one of the airports. And then I was in my room and I started reading this thing. And I noticed something about it. And I noticed, first of all, it said spring 2018 right up here. I noticed it was a little bit thicker. And the paper is a little bit nicer. And I thought, this is interesting. Wonder what they're doing. So I went inside and I found this page with the picture of the editor. I believe he's like the managing editor or something like that. His name is Joe Brown, and his monthly editorial piece, right? And here's what jumps out at me. All right, so because here's what I want to do is I want to make a conversation out of this with you. I want to hear what you think about what's going to happen here. Can Popular Science magazine survive? Because here's what's happening. Let's read something of what Joe said here. He goes, if you handed this issue and the one that came before it to Shadow, this very clever crow on the cover of the magazine, I guess it's Shadow, he'd know something was up. And what he meant by that was that he goes, what you're currently holding is our intelligence issue. And that it's more than 30% thicker than the one that arrived back in December. It goes on to say we've added 25 more pages to Popular Science, to PopSci, and increased the quality of the paper, which I noticed, right? That's because the company let me do what I pitched when I applied for the job in 2016, and that was to transform Popular Science magazine into a quarterly publication. And it goes on to say, and I'm going to skip up to the next paragraph, but it goes on to say that instead of our bi-monthly magazine, every 2 months, we'd rather give you 4 epic printed events a year, sparkling quarterly editions that each dive deep into a single topic to bring you tales of science and technology you won't find anywhere else. We've been honing this idea for the past 16 months with our shift to themed issues. So they're going from 6 magazines a year to 4 magazines per year. And the big stuff is it's thicker, it's got better paper, and they're themed, and I don't know, I guess go into more depth. All right. So hearing that, reading that, would you say that they have a chance to survive in the future? Because he goes on to talk about, that digital is a huge issue, and which we all know about. And he ends up by saying, wherever you are and however you choose to read us, PopSci will be there. We're not going anywhere except to the future. Here's to another 146 years and hopefully many more. Why do I bring this up now? Because I'm questioning. This is an established company that has been in the print world for many, many years, 146 years, right? They are within that box that I often talk about. They're inside that box. Now, Have they climbed out and created the new box? Not sure. Because guess what? Let's go back to the Popular Science back in 2000. I think it was the January issue of 2016 or something like that. But here is the January-February cover of Popular Science magazine 2016. Yep, January, February. And here's what they said back then. And this is what the editor back then had to say. He says, here at Popular Science, we spend a lot of time considering the future. We bring readers what's new, what's next. We've been doing it for 144 years. Now, skip down to the next paragraph. And yet, for as readily as we've adopted new storytelling platforms, our core product has always been the monthly print magazine. That's changing. With our January 2016, with the January 2016 issue, they will move from a monthly schedule to a bi-monthly one. So instead of publishing 12 regular print issues per year, they will publish 6 bigger, richer ones. He goes on to say, what we found is that over the past few years, the way people use Popular Science has changed. Where people once relied on our print magazine as a source of news, they mostly go to our website for that today. Skip again, and therein the change in frequency. Rather than produce 12 smaller issues each year, we'll aim to make 6 bigger ones that offer the experience our readers want. When you pick up January, February, either in print or online, you'll see that all of our sections have grown substantially. Okay, so it says, yeah, our feature has nearly doubled too. You'll see original photography, blah, blah, blah. Skip all the way down to the last paragraph. When the world changes, as it has more than a few times in nearly a century and a half, you need to change with it. And finishing with, and at every step, we need to keep our readers squarely in sight. So please join us for our next chapter. I think you're going to like what you find. Okay, so back in January of 2016, they went from 12 issues a year to 6 issues a year. Ostensibly, it was a thicker magazine. That's what they said, right? That it was going to be more in-depth. Sections have grown more substantially. The feature is bigger, better photography, everything like that. Now we come into 2018 to spring of 2018, and he's saying they're going to go from 6 to 4 with a thicker magazine, better paper, more in-depth. This is a different editor now from the past. So my question to you is, I think you already know what I think, but I want to hear discussion from you. Do you think Popular Science magazine is going to survive? Do you think it's good? He says it's going to be around for another 146 years. I want to know if you think it's going to be around for the next 2 years. That's what I want to know. I want you to comment on it. Let me know what you think. And if you don't think that they're going to be around, tell me what the answer is. Is there a need for this type of information? Is there a need for it in print? I love print. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously I love print because I'm an author and I like books. But at the same time, I love to go get magazines and read them when I'm traveling. And I love that. So I want to hear from you. What do you think is going to happen to Popular Science? And what do you think they should do to survive and thrive in the future? This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. I'm very anxious to hear what you have to say. And I'll be back again next week for another episode of Uncopyable Business. And in the meantime, always remember to be uncopyable. See ya.